So I finished watching Box Barcelona, and I don't quite know what to make of it. I was prepared for it to be a B-movie quality type situation with a limited budget. To my surprise, it was reasonably executed. And of course, it gave off Bird Box vibes. But to be fair, it seemed more like a spin-off than anything else. The first half of the movie was an absolute slog. I couldn't stand the main character, and I think maybe that was the point. But while they borrowed elements from the original film, in my opinion, I don't believe this movie even grazes the level of the first Bird Box installment. Not even by a little bit. It's like you take the same people, and one's in their freshman year in high school, and the other person is already an adult, accomplished, and an A-list actor. Still the same people, still elements of the same people there, but not on the same level, if you know what I mean. There's this main character, Tom Cruise, Steven Seagal looking hybrid dude, who we think is a good guy, and who starts off as a good guy, but is revealed later to actually be a crazy person. Remember those people from the first movie? Crazy people that didn't need the blindfolds because something snapped inside them that made them insane and want to make everybody see the monsters? Yep, well, he's one of them. Except now their eyes apparently look normal, which I guess would make more sense because it would be very obvious that there's something wrong with their eyes. Something that people in the first movie should have recognized. Anyway, this is Sebastian. Sebastian lost his wife and then soon after lost his daughter. And the way he lost his daughter was honestly very traumatic for him. We know that people with mental issues or psychological issues are not affected by the monsters. And so they're used as tools to try and make other people see. Well, grief is one of those things that can make you snap and turn into a crazy person, and that's exactly what Sebastian's role is. We think his daughter is with him for part of the time until we realize it's actually an apparition. He actually sees her, but she's not actually there because she's dead. We realize later that it's actually the Lovecraftian entities that are using him by pretending as though they're his daughter. The promise that he'll be reunited with her and his wife after he brings everybody else to the light. When he tricks them and makes them see when they off themselves, he actually sees what looks like their souls, or something of the sort, ascending into heaven, which we later learn was all a trick. As he gets close with this British girl named Claire, a Halle Berry lookalike, who is conveniently a psychiatrist, she kind of plants a seed in his head to let him know that the monster can use his grief against him and make it look like the people that he loves and cares about, to make them look as though they're really there. But she warns him that it's not actually them. And this is one of the ridiculous things. These two dogs are guide dogs, and I don't care how tired they are. They're blindfolded, or they were when they're outside. But dogs can hear you creeping up on them. Then again, our big dog can't. If she is fast asleep in a deep sleep, I've done it a few times where, I prank her, run up behind her and scare her. I know, it's evil, but sometimes it's comical because she does the same thing to me. But I find it very hard for this guy to be hanging around them for this long, being able to pick up their leash, something that they would feel, have their owner shift, and it not wake them up and them not maul this guy's face off. 2 Belgian Malinois, and you want me to believe that? Yeah, okay, sure. If there was nothing else that was more unbelievable in this movie, it was that. And for that reason, it pissed me off. That was horrible writing. Those dogs should not have been placed in that situation because that would not happen. Maybe you could get by with one of them. But both of them, not hearing you creep up on them like that, being extra protective of their owner, especially in their heightened state needing to survive, you could probably argue that they trust the people in there and the dogs are trained to trust people. Try walking up on my Shiba like that, especially if you're doing something to touch them or fumbling with something on their person. They're going to wake up. They're dogs. Anyway, we learn animals, I guess not birds though, are affected by the monsters as well. I had to look up if the dog died because when I see a dog in a movie, I'm paranoid. It drastically traumatizes me and depresses me if I see them die in a movie. So good news, we don't see any dogs die. However, as chaos erupts and the trainer loses his dog because its stupid ass cut his leash, we unfortunately do see one of the dogs shake off their blindfolds. And it's so sad because he's doing this right after he's trying to wake up his owner and trying to defend him from the monster that is coming. And it's so freaking sad. Like, I actually was holding my breath at the scene. And while the dog sees the monster, you can see the dog's eyes make the change into that strange shimmering coating. However, unlike the book, a detail that I happened to find when looking up if the dogs would meet their demise, you don't see the dog immediately go chew his leg off or end his life. Instead, he seems to go mad and attacks anyone who goes close to him. It really makes you wonder, what actually does happen to the animals that are affected by these creatures? I mean, if all of them are affected, or the ones that we eat anyway, wouldn't that mean that we would eventually go hungry? Every cow, every dog, no more meat on the menu after a while. Well, it doesn't take long, even though this movie does seem to take longer than it should. But later on, near the end of the movie, when Claire and the little German girl make it to the safe haven, we find out that the remnant of the military that's there not only were able to contain the monster, like the freaking SCP Foundation, but also study it by exposing humans and rats to it to see how they are affected by the monster. When the rats are placed in the containment, we only see an indication of them being alive via their heartbeat monitor shortly after being exposed, and then we hear the ambience of the monster, birds going crazy, they flatline, and I'm guessing they ended up ending their lives by eating each other to death or banging themselves against their container. So, if the rats were affected this way, it only stands to reason that eventually the dog would have met the same demise, which makes me so freaking sad, and I'm glad that we didn't get to see that on screen. Because honestly, there really wasn't any need to show us that. I at least respect the movie for not doing that. I know it still hits hard reading in a book, but the visual of it unfolding before your eyes, for some reason, for me, just personally, I can't. Anyway, this movie was interesting because we know that the main guy who is actually the villain of the story, who is very relatable because he watched his daughter get taken, had these radicals force her eyes open, and then he was willing to force his eyes open to save his little girl, who is the last loved one he has left, only to watch her kill herself, and he can't do anything about it. And this is the moment when he absolutely snaps. So when the monster would have affected him, he was already broken, and so it didn't affect him. However, later, through Claire's kneading, he realizes that the monster had been tricking him this whole time, and that the apparition of his daughter is not real, and it was the monster manipulating him through using her. However, I thought that when he came to and he got his mind back, that he was going to be able to be affected by the monsters by being driven insane to kill himself too, but that didn't happen. He still retained the ability to be able to see the monsters and not die. And after he changed, he saved Claire and the little German girl, seeing his daughter in the German girl and seeing his wife in Claire. Sebastian sacrificed himself to make sure that Claire and the little girl would make it to the tram. And obviously, just like the first movie, there is so much that is embellished in this movie to the point where you're like, it's absolutely freaking ridiculous. Like, they should not have survived. But I do like that they expounded on the lore. We don't really know what the monsters are. There's Lovecraftian entities. They use people's fears against them and their grief. And the only substance of value that we get out of this movie is that the crazy people can be reached, and the grief that alters their DNA is the key to trying to find a cure or a source of immunity for the people that are affected by this. That's what these people are testing. So at least they expounded on that. The movie wasn't absolutely horrible. I didn't like it when it started. I didn't even know if I was going to finish it, but I actually walked away being glad that I did. Maybe because I'm interested in the monsters and I actually wanted to see more about them, but that little lore that was added at the end was actually quite interesting. I don't know if they took that from the book or if that's something they made up on the spot, but I like the aspect of, hey, there's a possibility we can find a cure if we inject some of the DNA, or if we alter the DNA of people who are affected by the monster by using those that are unaffected by them. And they managed to keep it still a little bit refreshing because you still walk away knowing that these things are out there and they are very much a problem, Keter level. The biggest question, though, is how were they able to contain it? The physics guy mentioned that they were quantum beings. So many questions, and I like the fact that this movie still leaves you asking questions. Anyway, that's my opinion on the movie. By the end, I'm glad that I watched it. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.